Ever wished you could just walk away from it all? You know, the pressures, the expectations, maybe even a royal marriage proposal or two?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's exactly what our subject today did. We're diving deep into the life of Anne-Marie Louise d'Orléans.
Better known as La Grande Mademoiselle.
Right. A woman who, let's just say, didn't exactly play by the rules.
And she had the means not to, wouldn't you say? Born into unimaginable wealth, this was a woman who could have lived a life of pure luxury. But instead, she chose to defy convention at every turn.
Absolutely. We've got her personal memoirs, historical accounts of the time.
Even letters detailing her dream of starting a commune.
For women who, like her, wanted a different path. This isn't just a story of privilege.
No.
It's a story of rebellion, intrigue, and maybe even a little bit of heartbreak.
It's fascinating how her life mirrors the turbulent time she lived in. Born in the Louvre in 1627, she was quite literally surrounded by power and opulence from the moment she entered the world.
Talk about starting life at the top. And her mother, Marie de Bourbon, Duchess of Montpensier, was no ordinary noblewoman.
No, not at all.
She was the sole heir to the Montpensier fortune,
One of the wealthiest families in France.
which meant that when Anne-Marie Louise's mother tragically passed away just a few days after her birth,
Yes.
she inherited this vast fortune, becoming, as some historians claim.
The richest child in the world.
Whoa. Imagine the weight of that legacy, even as a baby. It's no wonder she grew up with a strong sense of independence. But let's not forget, this is 17th century France. Even with all that wealth, a woman's life was largely defined by marriage.
Precisely. And for someone like Anne-Marie Louise, marriage wasn't just a personal matter.
Right.
It was a strategic move on the grand chessboard of European power. Her wealth and proximity to the throne made her a highly sought-after bride.
And the proposals came pouring in, didn't they? We're talking Charles II of England, the King of Portugal, even the Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand III. These weren't just suitors. These were monarchs.
Each one vying for her hand, hoping to secure an alliance with France, and of course a share of that legendary Montpensier fortune.
Right.
But Anne-Marie Louise, much to everyone's astonishment, rejected them all.
Now that's a power move.
Mm.
What do you think drove her to defy those expectations? Was it purely a desire for love or something more?
Well, it's impossible to know for certain, but her memoirs hint at a deep-seated aversion to being controlled, especially in matters of the heart. She saw how these royal marriages often played out, more like business transactions than genuine partnerships, and she simply refused to be a pawn in anyone's game, not even the king's.
Speaking of the king, her relationship with Louis XIV is a whole other chapter in this saga. They grew up together.
They did.
She even called him her little husband in her younger years. But their bond became strained as they got older, wouldn't you say?
Most definitely, especially as she grew into her wealth and her independent spirit. Louis XIV, known for his absolute control, likely saw her as a potential threat. Someone who could challenge his authority, especially with her close ties to his own family. Her father, Gaston, Duke of Orléans, was the king's own uncle.
Right.
And let's just say he wasn't exactly a fan of Cardinal Richelieu, the king's powerful chief minister.
Cardinal Richelieu, the mastermind behind so much courtly intrigue. And he definitely didn't approve of Anne-Marie Louise's closeness to the young king, did he?
Not one bit. He saw her influence as a potential obstacle to his own ambitions. And remember, this was a time of immense political upheaval in France. The seeds of what would become the Fronde Rebellion were already being sown.
And those seeds eventually sprouted, dragging France into a civil war and pulling Anne-Marie Louise right into the heart of the conflict. It's hard to imagine a woman of her status, raised in the lap of luxury, taking sides in such a violent uprising.
It's certainly a turning point in her story. And understanding her motivations requires us to delve into the complex web of alliances and rivalries that fueled the Fronde. The Fronde wasn't just some petty squabble among nobles.
More like a full-blown power struggle, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we're talking nobles versus the monarchy.
Oh, absolutely.
Parliaments flexing their muscles, simmering resentments over taxes.
Yeah.
Cardinal Richelieu's iron grip on power.
It was a recipe for chaos, and France was brought to a boil. And remember, Anne-Marie Louise's father, Gaston.
Right.
He was a key player in this whole drama. He had his own ambitions.
Of course.
His own grievances against the crown. And wasn't afraid to make them known.
So was she just blindly following her father's lead into this rebellion? Or were there other factors at play?
Well, loyalty to her father was definitely a major factor. But remember, she was also fiercely independent.
Right.
And her memoirs suggest a genuine disdain for Cardinal Richelieu. and what she perceived as his manipulative tactics. She saw the Fronde as a chance to strike back at a system that she felt was corrupt and unjust.
And strike back she did. I mean, we're not just talking about writing strongly worded letters here.
Oh, no.
She actually took command of troops, rode into battle,
Yeah.
earned the nickname the Amazon, fighting alongside other noble women warriors. This wasn't some symbolic gesture. She was right there in the thick of it.
Her involvement in the Battle of Faubourg Saint-Antoine is particularly striking. There's this incredible account of her seeing the rebel leader, Prince of Condé, about to be overrun by royal troops. Without hesitation, she took charge
Wow.
and ordered the cannons of the Bastille to fire on the king's own forces.
Talk about a bold move. That takes some serious guts, especially considering she was risking her own life, her entire fortune, everything.
Everything.
But her actions had consequences, didn't they?
It did.
The fraud was eventually crushed, and she found herself on the wrong side of Louis XIV's wrath.
Exile was her punishment. Banished from Paris, sent to her country estates. It was a stark fall from grace for a woman who once held the keys to the kingdom, so to speak.
I wonder how that exile, that forced isolation, shaped her thinking, her worldview. Did it make her more rebellious? More determined to live life on her own terms? Or did it spark a desire for something different, something beyond the endless power games of the court?
That's where her story takes an even more intriguing turn. It's during this period of exile that she began to explore her intellectual side. With tutors by her side, she delves into writing, pouring her experiences, her thoughts, and her aspirations into her memoirs.
Those memoirs are a treasure trove of insights into her mind, aren't they?
Yeah.
They reveal a woman who was not only intelligent and observant, but also deeply reflective,
Absolutely.
questioning the very foundations of the world she was born into.
And it's within those pages that we discover her yearning for a life far removed from the gilded cages of the French court. Remember those letters you mentioned earlier, the ones detailing her vision for a commune?
Oh, yes. It's like stumbling upon a secret blueprint for a utopian society centuries ahead of its time. Here she is, this wealthy heiress, dreaming of creating a community for women who, like her, had grown disillusioned with the confines of courtly life.
It wasn't just a fleeting fancy. She had a clear vision outlining the location, the ideal companions, even the layout of the houses and gardens.
Wow.
She envisioned a place where women could pursue intellectual growth, spiritual development, and live in harmony with nature, free from the pressures of marriage and courtly intrigue.
It's remarkable how she saw marriage as a limiting factor for women, a sentiment that resonates even today.
Yeah.
She specifically wanted women who were widowed or had, as she put it, renounced this sacrament. She believed that within those bonds, women were stripped of their agency, their potential stifled.
Her vision for this commune wasn't solely about personal liberation, though. She also incorporated a strong element of social responsibility,
Okay.
planning for a hospital for poor children and a beautiful church as central parts of the community.
It's as if she wanted to create a space where intellect, spirituality, and compassion could flourish. A stark contrast to the often cutthroat world she had experienced at court. But did this dream ever become a reality?
Sadly, no. It seems it remained a cherished idea, a vision of what could be, but it speaks volumes about her values, her longing for a different path,
Yeah.
one that defied the expectations of her time and her station. And perhaps this yearning for something deeper, something more meaningful, played a role in the next chapter of her life, a chapter filled with both passionate love and bitter disappointment.
You're talking about her relationship with the Count de Lauzon, right?
Okay.
That's where things take a truly dramatic turn. After rejecting all those powerful suitors, she falls for a man who is not only much younger, but also significantly less wealthy than her. It's a choice that baffled the court and set tongues wagging.
Here's a woman who had always been acutely aware of the power dynamics surrounding her wealth, refusing to be used as a pawn in anyone's game. But with Lauzon, it seemed like genuine affection had trumped all those calculations.
So was this a true love match, defying all expectations? Did they get there happily ever after?
Well, their story is far more complicated than a simple fairy tale. In fact, their relationship became a battleground in its own right. A clash between personal desires and the machinations of the court, with Louis XIV himself caught in the crossfire.
Okay, so we've got Anne-Marie Louise, the independent, wealthy heiress, head over heels for this Count de Lauzon. It's a scandal waiting to happen, right?
It certainly raised eyebrows at court. Imagine the whispers, the speculation, the disapproval from those who saw their union as a threat to the established order. But here's where things get really interesting. Louis XIV, the king who had exiled her twice for refusing his marriage
Oh,
proposals,
right.
actually gave them permission to marry.
Wait, really? That's a total shock. I mean, what was he thinking? Did he have a change of heart, or was there some deeper political strategy at play?
It's hard to say for sure. Perhaps he saw an opportunity to control her wealth through Lausanne, or maybe he genuinely believed she deserved some happiness after all the turmoil she had endured. Whatever his motivations, the court was stunned. No one could believe that Louis XIV had sanctioned this seemingly mismatched union, but their joy was short-lived.
Because, of course, there's a twist.
Just days after granting his permission, Louis XIV rescinded it, likely due to immense pressure from the court and key advisors who saw Lausanne as an opportunist,
Hmm.
unworthy of Anne-Marie Louise's hand and her fortune.
It's like a Shakespearean tragedy, isn't it? Just when it seems like she might finally get a taste of happiness, fate intervenes.
Yeah.
So how did Anne-Marie Louise react to this devastating blow?
She was furious, heartbroken, and most importantly, she refused to back down.
Hmm.
She protested the decision, advocating for Lausanne, appealing to the king's sense of fairness, but her efforts backfired spectacularly.
Oh no, what happened?
Louis XIV, angered by her defiance, imprisoned Lausanne in the infamous Pignerol fortress in the Alps, a place known for its harsh conditions and remote location. It was a clear message: defy the king, and there will be consequences.
So what did Anne-Marie Louise do? Did she abandon Lausanne to his fate?
Not a chance. She spent the next decade working tirelessly for his release, writing letters, pulling strings, calling upon favors owed, and finally she made an extraordinary sacrifice.
Hmm.
She relinquished a significant portion of her wealth,
Hmm.
transferring titles and estates to the king's illegitimate son, the Duc d'Umain. It's believed this was the price of Lausanne's freedom.
Wow. She literally bought his freedom. That's dedication on a whole other level. So after all that struggle, all that sacrifice, they finally reunited.
They did, and they secretly married, defying Louis XIV's ban and the disapproval of the court. It's a testament to their love, their stubborn determination to be together despite all obstacles. But sadly, even this hard-won happiness was fleeting.
Wait, so even after all that, it wasn't a happy ending?
Their marriage lasted only a few years. Rumors circulated about Lausanne's infidelity, his inability to appreciate the magnitude of her sacrifice. It seems that even Anne-Marie Louise, with all her wealth and power, couldn't escape the complexities of love and the often disappointing realities of human relationships.
It's a reminder that even in the 17th century, some things never change. Heartbreak is a universal language. So what happened to Anne-Marie Louise after her separation from Lausanne?
She retreated from the world, seeking solace in her various estates, dedicating her time to writing, reflecting on a life that had been full of both extraordinary privilege and extraordinary challenges. Eventually, she moved into a convent in Paris, perhaps seeking spiritual comfort or simply a peaceful escape from the disappointments of courtly life.
It's a poignant image. This woman who had once commanded armies and defied kings, finding refuge within those quiet convent walls. It makes you wonder what she thought about during those final years, what regrets, what triumphs she carried with her.
It's said that Lausanne, the man for whom she had sacrificed so much, tried to see her on her deathbed, seeking forgiveness or perhaps one last glimpse of the woman who had loved him so fiercely.
Did she allow him to visit?
She refused. Even in her final moments, she held on to her agency, her right to choose who had access to her heart, her space. It's a powerful statement about the enduring strength of her character. She died in 1693 at the age of 65, leaving behind a legacy as complex and fascinating as the woman herself.
So what can we learn from La Grande Mademoiselle, this woman who was born into unimaginable wealth, but who craves something more, something beyond the trappings of her privilege?
Her story reminds us that even those born at the pinnacle of power are not immune to the yearnings of the human heart. The desire for love, the pursuit of freedom, the search for meaning. She defied expectations, challenged norms, and ultimately lived a life that was entirely her own, a life that continues to captivate us centuries later.
La Grande Mademoiselle, a woman of contradictions, a rebel in silk gowns, a dreamer with the power to shake the very foundations of the French court. Her story is a reminder that history is not just about dates and battles, but about the individuals who dared to live life on their own terms, leaving behind ripples that are felt even today. And that's our deep dive into the extraordinary life of Anne-Marie Louise d'Orléans. We encourage you to explore further, perhaps her memoirs, her letters, or historical accounts of the Fronde, and discover for yourself the complexities of this remarkable woman. And don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more insightful explorations of captivating topics delivered right to your ears.